Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you see the whiteboard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So last class, we were talking about stable equilibrium. We started with under dynamic. I will go a little bit fast because we are much behind and it will be very difficult to cover the whole syllabus. So under dynamic condition, under market equilibrium, we usually explain this equilibrium with the help of Cobb-Webb theorem. Under Cobb-Webb theorem, you will find three different kind of equilibrium. First one is stable equilibrium under dynamic condition. Okay. Second one is stable equilibrium. Already we discussed it last class. Unstable equilibrium under dynamic condition. What is this here? In this case, unstable. When slope of demand curve is more than slope of supply curve, the system is divergent and equilibrium is unstable. Say for example, right now you are at equilibrium point here and your equilibrium price is P3, equilibrium quantity is Q3. Because of some factor, suppose at time period T, means suppose today, price increase, I am discussing right now unstable equilibrium under dynamic condition, quickly. Suppose because of some factor today, price increase, today means time period T, price increase to P4, price increase to P4. The moment price increase, demand is spontaneous, immediately demand decrease. Demand decrease from Q3 to Q4. Sorry, Q3 to Q2, suppose. Demand, the price increase immediately. Today, because of some factor, price increase. The moment price increase, immediately demand decrease. Price increase, suppose there was a decrease in supply, and that supply was decreased because suppose there was a blockage in road blockage or some agitation or something, at a sudden something happened, and these are market fluctuation. So when it happened, supply was less, immediately price went up. So when price went up, ultimately demand decreased. So whatever was supply today in the market, everything is sold out. But today's market price was P4 because of some factors influence price increase to P4. And as long as price is P4, demand remain at OQ2 here, as long as price is here. But what will happen next day, as price is P4 today, which is higher than P3, next day as a supplier, I will try to supply more. Next day means T plus 1 time period. Next day, I will try to supply more. And how much I will try to supply? I will try to supply here. That will be represented by supply curve. At P4, I will try to supply this much. And that is happening only next day. Because supply is a lag function of price. Today price increase. Because of that, tomorrow I will try to supply more. Similar to me, some other supplier also try to supply more into that market. So I supply or market supply was suppose Q4 tomorrow, but price is at P4. As long as price is at P4, demand is OQ2, but supply is OQ4. In tomorrow's market, what will happen? The supply is OQ4, demand is OQ2. This much will be surplus of supply. The moment there is a surplus of supply, what will happen in market? Tomorrow, same day, this is happening. Surplus supply. Supply is here, demand is here. So this much is surplus supply. The moment it is a surplus supply, market is unsold stock is there in market. Market is flooded with a particular product. Immediately price will come down. Price will come down to here. The logic behind decrease in price up to maybe suppose P2. Suppose price came down to P2. Why not 0? Only to P2. That logic is when price decreases, immediately demand starts increasing. So when price reach at P2, whatever was supplied, everything will be sold out because demand also reached to OQ4 at P2. So price will be at P2. So whatever was there, OQ4 was the supply, demand also reached immediately because demand is spontaneous. Response to change in price in case of demand is spontaneous. So demand also reached to OQ4, supply is also OQ4. So no unsold stock is there in market, everything is sold out. That happened at T+1 time period. But next day, because P2 prevailing price is P2 now, which is much lower than P3. P3 is the original equilibrium price. So P2 is lower than P3, and P2 is not attractive to the supplier because it is much lower. So at P2 next day means T+2 time period. What supplier will do? Supplier will supply only this much, which will be represented by supply curve. Supplier will supply only Q1 quantity of or Q1 quantity of that particular product. But as long as price is P2, demand is OQ4. So at T+2 time period, what will happen in market? Supply is OQ1, demand is OQ4. There is a shortage of supply. Demand is OQ4, supply is only OQ1. Q1, Q4 is the shortage of supply. When shortage of supply will be there immediately, means at same time period, T+2 time period, immediately price will go up. Price went up to say E5. Immediately, shortage of supply, immediately price went up. Same day in market. The moment price went up, immediately demand decreased, demand come down to OQ1, supply was also OQ1. So no unsold stock, whatever was brought into that market, everything is sold out. But your story is not ending here. What will happen next day? T+3 time period, because P5 is more attractive to the supplier because origin equilibrium price was P3. Now price is P5. Next day means at T+3 time period, supplier will try to supply more. Supplier will supply here. This is suppose Q5. Q5. But demand is, as long as price is P5, demand is only OQ1. So in T+3 time period, in market, what will happen? Supply is OQ5, demand is OQ1, Q1, Q5 is the surplus supply. When surplus supply will be there, price will immediately come down to here. Come down to P1. So in that way it is moving. So if you look at your movement initially, if you look at your movement, you started moving in this way. You are moving in this way. And see your movement. You are diverging. You are diverging. Okay? You are diverging gradually in this way. You are diverging, not converging. In previous case, there was a converse case. Here what happened? When slope of demand curve is more than slope of supply curve, system is divergent and equilibrium is unstable. It will continue in that way. This will continue. Here T+3 time period, then T+4 time period will come. T+4 will come, which will be somewhere here. It will be somewhere here in that way. It will go on. So once equilibrium is disturbed, it is very difficult to come back to your original equilibrium position. Some temporary stability may be there, but you are not coming back to your original equilibrium position. And because of that, it is called unstable equilibrium under dynamic conditions. So equilibrium is unstable. The third one is, quickly I'm discussing, the third one is your oscillating equilibrium or undamped oscillating equilibrium. Oscillating equilibrium. Oscillating equilibrium, or in certain books, you will find undamped oscillating equilibrium. What is happening here? When slope of demand curve, and slope of supply curve are equal, when slope of demand curve and slope of supply curve are equal, what will happen? So initial equilibrium position may be somewhere. So suppose Q3, P3. Then also, because of some factor, suppose your price increase, you will oscillate around your original equilibrium position. Neither you are coming back to your original equilibrium position, nor you are going away from your original equilibrium position. You will oscillate around your original equilibrium position. Because of that, it is called oscillating equilibrium or undamped oscillating equilibrium. So in certain books, you may find in both oscillating equilibrium or undamped oscillating equilibrium. Okay. So in that way, you will find some explanation about equilibrium under dynamic condition, 3 different kind of equilibrium. Now the basic issue here is, from this whole discussion of demand and supply, why I said that I want to be little bit quick, because from this whole discussion of demand and supply, initially we talked about demand and supply, determinant, and so many other issues are there. Okay, that we discuss it. Okay, before market equilibrium, there are so many other topics even we discuss, determinants and so and so. But from this demand and supply, you are not getting too much information. What is missing here? That is your, say you are a businessman, you are producing something. Suppose you are a producer, you are producing something. So for profit only you are doing it. Now, how will you know that how you are going to make a profit? Obviously, certain issues are important here. One is your cost of production and other things. I'm not going deep into that issue right now. But suppose for profit, you are producing a product and selling it in market. Now, you are bringing your product to sell into that market. Okay. Now, basic question arises here. What price are you going to charge? Because it is your product. Suppose you are producing tomato, or any product. Suppose you are producing tomato. How much, what will be the market price you are going to fix for your product? Because it is your product, you are going to fix it. You may fix a price of 100 rupee also per kg of tomato. But what its consequence may be, you may not be in a position to sell even a single kg of tomato in market. Suppose in market, other sellers are selling at 20 rupee. You are fixing a price of 100 rupee. So it may happen that you may not be in a position to sell even a single kg of tomato. A small quantity, it may not be possible for you to sell. So technically, though it is your product, you are going to fix your price, no one can dictate. But ultimately, while fixing the price, you need to think about the prevailing market price, or what other sellers are doing, or what other sellers are selling their product at what price. Other seller of same product or similar product. if you say that my tomato is different from another person's tomato, it may be, but this doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that if it is not totally different, if there is a no scope to prove that it is totally different, but there may be little bit difference might be in color and so and so. Ultimately, end of the day, consumers are going to purchase it. So consumers are going to take a decision similar to you about the liberty or the right to fix your price of your product. Consumers are also enjoying a similar, say, right about whether to purchase or not. You are free to fix price of your product, but at the same time, suppose I am a consumer, I am free to take a decision whether to purchase or not, or whether to purchase or not at your price, or whether to purchase it or not from from other producers' product. So all these, as consumers are also having that equal right about all these aspects. You cannot dictate. You may create certain environment and those issues, price and output determination and other issues, Professor Nayak will discuss in detail, and might be he already started, might be, I do not know. But the basic issue is, I'm giving a quickly hypothetical case. Suppose you are producing a product. You are producing, suppose industrial product, suppose a pen. Suppose you are producing a pen, cost of production of per unit of pen is 3 rupees, suppose. Okay. Cost of production of your pen is 3 rupees, and there is no change in cost of production, no change in other things, because I am considering a short-run situation, suppose. And market price at 3 cost of production and market price of that pen is suppose 4 rupee, hypothetical case. At 4 rupee, you are right now selling 1000 units of that pen. So you are making a profit of 1000 rupee. 3 rupee cost of production, market price is 4 rupee, 1 rupee per unit, pen profit is 1 rupee, 1000 unit you are selling it, so you are making a profit of 1000. Suppose you are the producer of your pen, so then you thought that, okay, why to fix 4 rupee? Why not to fix a price of, say, 5 rupee? You fix a price of your product, increase that price from 4 to 5 rupee. Normal, simple knowledge of you already know it. For normal goods, for simple or in normal situation, when price increase, demand decrease. You know it, demand curve is negatively slope. You know it already, these things. So what is happening in this case? When you increase price of your product, cost of production and other things are still at same level, to make more profit, per unit profit of 2 rupee, what you did, you increase the price. So demand decrease. Suppose demand now decrease to, suppose, say, 300 unit. So right now for 300 units, you are making a profit of 2. Ultimately, your total profit after increase of price is 600. This is a possibility. Earlier profit was 1000. With a hope of increasing your profit, you increase price of your product from 4 rupee to 5 rupee, so that per unit your profit is 2 rupee. That is 2 rupee you are getting it, but demand drastically decrease. So ultimately your end outcome is, profit decrease from 1000 rupee to 600. Although your objective was to increase profit. But if it is not 300, suppose with increase in price also, another possibility may be, someone might be thinking, why 300? This is a hypothetical value. Someone may think about that, okay, demand may decrease, but demand might be come down to 800. So 800 into 2, another possibility may be, profit may be 1600. Earlier profit was 1000 rupee. Now it is 1600. So you are making a move in this case. This is another possibility. So these are possibilities. So it may happen. In both the cases, demand decrease. Here it is earlier demand was 1,000 units. Now demand decrease in one case 300, another case 800. Both the cases demand decrease. But this is possible. Simple analysis of your demand or supply is not going to give you this information. You are basically analyzing what here in this case, how sensitive your product with respect to increase in price. Because you are increasing price, 3 rupee cost of production, 4 rupee was market price earlier, then you increase to 5 rupee. So you are measuring, if you have fair idea about how sensitive your product to increase in price, you will be able to make a quick decision in your favor. That will be accurate decision for a profit maximizing individual. Okay, why I am telling you? If situation is when you increase 4 to 5 rupee, if your situation is like demand decrease to 800, profit is 1600, earlier was 1000, you are very happy. But if situation is like this, it will be a chaotic situation for your business. If you know beforehand how sensitive your product is, accordingly your strategy will be different. What kind of strategy will be? In this case, see here, when you increase price from 4 to 5 rupee, demand decrease from 1000, earlier it was 1000 to 300. 1000 to 300 means demand is highly sensitive to price in this case. In such a situation, what will you do? Because demand is highly sensitive to price means what? Price increase, demand drastically decrease. If for maximizing profit, I took a reverse strategy. Reverse strategy means I reduce my price from 4 rupee to 3 rupee 50 paisa. Instead of increasing in such situation, I reduce my price from 4 rupee to 3 rupee 50 paisa. What will happen? Price decrease, demand will increase. I told you already that demand is highly sensitive here. So demand may go up to from 1000 to original demand was 1000, go up to maybe even 1900 also. Because demand is highly sensitive. When I am increasing price, demand drastically decrease. When I decrease price, demand is also drastically supposed to increase. Both way it is supposed to work in similar way. And it is likely to be same because it is highly sensitive means market is highly competitive here. The moment I reduce price of my product in comparison to other seller, immediately there will be a lot of consumer who will jump to purchase my product at much lower price. So price went up. Although now per unit my profit may be decrease. This is a hypothetical case. You may argue that why 3 rupee 50 paisa? It may be 3 rupee 75 paisa also, 25 paisa. This is a hypothetical situation. So in such a situation, instead of increasing my price, I would rather prefer to decrease my price so that my profit may even go up. That possibility, this is not very much happening here in this case, but because of those values, but if you change it slightly, if it is not say 4 rupee, earlier 4 to situation is 4 to 6 rupees suppose, then situation was happening. Cost of production is suppose 2 rupee. Situation is something like that. But when you decrease its price from 4 to 3 rupee 50 paisa, this increase like in it. Then 1900 into cost of production is same, no change. Sorry, 1 rupee 50 paisa because your profit reduced. Earlier it was 2 rupee. Now profit is In this case, when you make it 3 rupee 50 paisa, profit is suppose 2 to 3.3 rupee 50 paisa means 1.5. 1.5. So 1900 into 1.5, you will get some value, maybe your 2800 or something like that, nearby. Right? So profit will go up like anything. So when you will have this information, then only it will be possible to take such kind of decision. And these are discussed under the concept of elasticity. Under the concept of elasticity. Now, elasticity we discuss both for demand and supply, obviously. Now, initially, I am starting the discussion for demand. Under demand, elasticity can be discussed with respect to different of each parameter. Now, what is elasticity of demand? It is the responsiveness in the change in quantity demanded for a commodity with respect to change in any of each parameter. Now, question arises that what do I mean by any of each parameter? You remember, while discussing demand, I discussed under different determinants of demand, I discussed different parameters like price, like income, like price of substitute and complementary item, and so and so. Accordingly, elasticity of demand, supply will bring it sometime later. Accordingly, elasticity of demand is also discussed under three different or under different categories. One is price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand. This is price is one parameter. Means with respect to price, you are measuring how sensitive your product with respect to change in quantity demanded. Means what price elasticity of demand measure? Price elasticity of demand, also we sometimes we write it EP. Also sometimes we write EP is percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price of the same commodity. Percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price of the same commodity. Means it is the proportionate change, percentage change or proportionate change in quantity demanded. Quantity demanded of a commodity with respect to change in price of the same commodity. Means with respect to think about our example. Here what we were doing it, we were trying to analyze how sensitive your product is with respect to change in price. Price means market price by default. That we are trying to measure. So it is the proportionate change or percentage change in quantity demanded because of a percentage change or 1% change in price of the same commodity. Or in other way, how we express price elasticity? Del Q by Q. This gives us percentage change or quantity demanded, and this will be del P by P. Here del Q represents change in quantity demanded, del P represents change in price. Basically, I am discussing this demand curve. Suppose this side is Px, suppose this side is Qx. Suppose price is suppose here P2, Q1, price decreased to P1, quantity increased to Q1, quantity demand and increase. So this P2 minus P1, this represents your del P, and here this represents your del Q. Okay, now question arise here means suppose basically in your demand curve you are measuring elasticity of change in price and resultant change in demand between point A and B, suppose. Now accordingly here two concepts coming into picture. One is arc elasticity, another is point elasticity. One is arc elasticity, another is point elasticity. These two issues are coming into picture here. Arc elasticity means when there is a considerable change in price and resultant change in demand, or when you are measuring elasticity between two finite points, you are measuring arc elasticity. Whatever I am showing it right now here, this is basically your arc elasticity. But in case of point elasticity, what we do it, in case of point elasticity, it is something like this. Suppose your demand curve is AB. What is your objective here? Objective here is how sensitive your product with respect to change in price. Your objective is this one. How sensitive your product with respect to change in price. If this is your objective, then when you are measuring elasticity at a particular or finite point, suppose M, where change in price is close to zero, not exactly zero, but close to zero. Very small change in price. You are measuring sensitivitiness. Basically, you are measuring sensitivitiness of change or change in quantity demanded because of change in price. So for doing this one, when you are measuring this change at a particular point in time where change in price is close to zero, not exactly zero, close to zero, you will get point elasticity, which we express it as dq by q divided by, okay, divided by dp by p, or in other way we express it dq by dp into E by Q. This is your point elasticity equation. Question arise might be here. Question might be arise in your mind that what is the difference? Why you need it? There are a lot of difficulties you will face it in measuring arc elasticity if you proceed in this way. There are different ways to do it, but question arises that which one you are going to consider as upper value and lower value of price, and upper value and lower value of quantity change. If you consider it one as upper value, the other one will be lower value, it may create a lot of difficulties. But in case of point elasticity, as you are measuring elasticity at a particular point where change in price is very close to zero, such kind of difficulties are not appearing. Because in calculation, there is a problem with respect to Q and P. Which Q and which P you are referring as base value. If you say that P2 is my base value, someone will argue with you that no, for me P1 is base value. What will you do? For P, there are certain solutions like to avoid that such kind of problem in certain calculation. They are considering P1 plus P2 divided by 2, means averaging the upper and lower value of P. Some other problems are also there, like if you measure elasticity, arc elasticity from A to B, and if someone measure elasticity from B to A, It is supposed to be same, but you are getting a two different value. So to avoid such kind of problem, we usually give more emphasis on point elasticity. And whether it is arc elasticity or point elasticity, in most of these cases, what happens? You are in normal goods, you are getting a negatively slope. You are getting a negatively sloped demand curve because relationship between price and quantity demanded is always negative for normal commodities. But your intention is what? Your intention is to measure how sensitive your product is. Because of that, in most of these books, you may find that there is a negative sign they are putting it just to make the final value positive. Because the relationship between price and quantity demanded is negative, because of that, in certain books, you may find a negative value. I'm using a different sign or color. In certain books, you may find a negative sign, so that ultimately your n value is positive, something like that. This is the typical way of doing it. Suppose I am giving you a equation. Suppose Q equal to A minus BP. What will be the elasticity? Linear. I am drawing a linear relationship between price and quantity demanded. So equation in equation form it is here. So you will go for first order derivative of output with respect to P and multiplying it by P by Q. So it will be, in this case, price, if it is a linear, price elasticity value will be minus B into P by Q. This will be the elasticity value. If your equation is suppose Q equal to A, P to the power minus B, what will be the elasticity value? EP, price elasticity value. Can you hear me? Can someone, you are good in mathematics? You can reply. Can you hear me? And as well as can you hear me as well as can you see the whiteboard where I am discussing or I am writing? Can you reply? Can you hear me as well as seeing the whiteboard? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if it is a non-linear like your power function, elasticity value will be minus B. Minus B, you will calculate it. Go for first order derivative. Forget about this negative sign. Forget about this negative sign. We use it finally, but otherwise you go for first order derivative, it will be what? A minus B A P to the power minus B minus 1 into P by Q. Yeah, I believe you can do it very easily. Okay, I'm writing it quickly here. So here EP. Okay, I'm just removing this one. What I'm doing it, EP is what? This one dq by dp. dq by dp is minus B A P to the power minus B minus 1 multiplied by P by Q. If I multiplied it, what I will get it? Minus B A P to the power minus B divided by Q. This portion is what? This portion is Q. You know it already, Q. So it is minus B Q by Q is equal to minus B. Okay. In certain books, you may find it actually because of time. I am just skipping many of the things like say for example, there is a way of another way of measuring elasticity is elasticity. You will find it graphically. It is nothing but lower segment by upper segment. What I mean to say, suppose at a particular point, suppose Mn. Mn is your demand curve. Elasticity at a particular point is lower segment. Suppose this point is A. At point A, elasticity is nothing but An divided by Am. Is nothing but An divided by Am. Something like that. Okay. So if point A is middle of the line, elasticity value is nothing but what will happen? 1. This 1 means it is called unitary elastic. Unitary elastic. It is called unitary elastic. At this particular point, elasticity value will be equal to 0. At this point, at this particular point, what is happening? Elasticity is lower segment is 0. 0 divided by Mn. 0 divided by something means 0. Perfectly inelastic. This is called perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic. Here, elasticity value is less than 1, relatively inelastic. Here, say at this particular point, elasticity value is equal to infinity or undefined. In certain books, you will find because something divided by 0. Here, denominator will be 0. Because lower segment is Mn. Mn divided by upper segment is 0. Something divided by 0 means infinity or undefined. So here elasticity is more than 1. Relatively elastic. This is called relatively elastic. Relatively elastic. Unitary elastic means what? Try to understand the consequence. Unitary elastic means what? If your unitary elastic means if your price of a particular commodity change by 1%, resultant change in quantity demanded will also be 1%. Okay. Say, if I say that price elasticity of demand for a particular commodity is minus 0.8. Price elasticity of demand for a particular commodity is minus 0.5. 0.8 minus represents this 0. Minus is presenting here this minus. Otherwise, it is 0.8 by default. Price elasticity is minus 0.8. Means if you increase price of the product by 1%, the resultant change in quantity demanded or decrease in quantity demanded will be 0.8%. Because these are proportionate change or percentage change. If you have any doubt, you can ask me any question. And I will give you more and more example about though I am discussing here price elasticity of demand. Though I am discussing here price elasticity of demand, I will give you more and more example, or I will prove it also later on in production and cost also it will come, that elasticity concept is not applied only for demand and supply. In different economic analysis, we use the concept of elasticity. I will bring again some example while discussing production and cost. But for the time being, I am discussing elasticity in the context of demand initially, then other kind of price elasticity of demand. Sorry, under demand, first I discuss price elasticity of demand. Then accordingly, some other parameters are also going to come in coming days. But for your information, as it strike to my mind right now, is that someone asked me at the beginning that your class test, class test means next test. I had a talk with Professor Sahu today, and what impression he gave me, that is, your test is likely to be next week, not this week. But Professor Sahu is going to inform you. And as we are taking this week also, we are going to take this class on rotation basis. So maybe tomorrow or day after, or in coming days, maybe Thursday, either tomorrow or Thursday, Professor Sahu is going to address you. So during that time, you confirm it, or might be he is going to circulate a email, which he will do it by default. But understanding is that next week there will be.
Sir, and what about
Yeah.
syllabus? What about the syllabus?
Till my last class means what I mean to say, suppose hypothetical case, if before class, today is the last class, suppose for section 1 for me, then whatever I am covering till today's class, this will be the syllabus. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And obviously some general common sense should prevail, that whatever question was asked in first test, definitely those questions will not be repeated. At least I will not repeat. Okay. And more emphasis will be there on those untouched portion, like demand and supply, like say even elasticity. Today I covered. Under elasticity, obviously I covered only price elasticity, that too partially, because there are some other things to discuss about price elasticity, which I am going to discuss now. So in that way, whatever is covered, it will be there from that one. But remember, you should be in a position to calculate elasticity, say price elasticity of demand, by using this one. Simple, go for first order derivative of your demand curve with respect to price. So in that way, and I interpret it also, this one. Now, and there are some other issues also, like graphically proving that elasticity is the ratio between lower segment and upper. Those right now I am intentionally avoiding it, because it will take little bit time, but I am concentrating more and more on some other aspects, because quickly I want to finish elasticity and try to go to your production and cost, because we will not have much time for that, and that is an important topic actually. But anyway, so there are different, similar to your determinants of demand, even in elasticity also, there are different determinants of price elasticity of demand, that I want to quickly discuss it. Like determinants of price elasticity of demand, suppose. Price elasticity of determinants of price elasticity of demand. Means there may be certain conditions, there may be certain situations, there may be certain factors or determinants which ultimately decides whether your product will be highly elastic or less elastic, or unitary elastic or perfectly inelastic, and so and so. All these unitary elastic, perfectly inelastic. Here it is perfectly elastic. Perfectly elastic. This is relatively elastic, relatively inelastic, so and so. Because this is inelastic. Close to zero is perfectly inelastic. Okay, and another hint I am giving you. Suppose in a situation like suppose your demand curve is something like this. Your demand curve is something like that. What will be the elasticity value? Change in price. If there is a change in price, no change in quantity demanded, elasticity value is 0. If it is a horizontal, elasticity value is infinity. Or a small change in price, or a small change by infinite change in quantity demanded. Infinite change in quantity demanded. So these are common sense actually. So why should I tell you actually? What will be the shape? Means what is happening? You see your demand curve now. Analyze it. More steeper your demand curve means more elastic it will be. Slope is more. Slope is more means what? For a small change in price. Sorry. Slope is more means your elasticity value will be less and less. But if it is more horizontal, it will be elasticity value will be much higher. Horizontal means slope of the curve is less means it will be highly elastic. Anyway, so time is up, but still I want to give you some hints so that you can think about in next class at least some of that other determinants. At least one determinants I want to explain. One is anyone like to guess determinants of price elasticity of demand, suppose. Anyone like to guess any determinants? Situation or determinants, factors or conditions which ultimately decides whether it will be elastic, inelastic, and so your product is.
So how essential the good is?
How essential the good? Okay. I'm starting with that factor. Then the question will be, I am expressing it in other way, that is nature of the commodity. Nature of the commodity. Consider 3-4 different commodity. One is suppose, say essential good. How essential? I am giving an example of an essential good. Or essential good. Suppose say rice. Or for suppose salt. Remember, while giving this example, 2-3 factors simultaneously may work here. I will prove it later on. Suppose you are talking about salt. Without salt, you cannot consume your any food. Suppose. So, and salt prices right now, suppose per kg of salt is suppose 20 rupee. Hypothetical value. I do not know exactly. Suppose it is 20 rupee per kg. Salt price increased from 20 to 25. What will you do? Ask yourself. What will you do? Price of salt increased from per kg of salt price increased from 20 to 25 rupee. You require 1 kg of salt maybe a month. Suppose. In a month you require 1 kg of salt. Price of salt increased from 20 to 25 rupee. And salt is coming under essential commodities, suppose. Means without salt, you cannot consume any food. What will you do? Tell me quickly. Do not waste time. These are simple questions.
I will buy the same quantities.
Okay, so this is happening that as it is an essential commodity, still might be most of you are still purchasing salt. Remember, please remember again and again I am saying, along with these determinants of nature of the commodity or essentiality, some other factors simultaneously may come while discussing this salt. I will explain it later on. Think about an AC, suppose. Split AC, suppose. It is not coming under essential commodities. Sorry. Suppose AC you are writing it here. It is coming under your luxury item, suppose. If AC price increase, say from 30,000 to 40,000. 40,000. Here it is almost how much? 25% increase. 20 to 25 means 5 rupee increase means 25% increase. 30,000 to suppose 37,500 or 40,000, suppose. Same percentage increase, it happens, suppose. So 37,500, suppose. Same percentage increase or something like that. What will you do? Many of you will not purchase. Remember, simultaneously other factor will also come into picture, but many of you may defer your purchasing activity. Why? Because it is a luxury item. Without that commodity also you may survive. You may purchase maybe after some time, that is different issue, but immediately you may not purchase when price went up by 25%. So nature of the commodity really important here. Okay. Nature of the commodity is maybe an important aspect here. Anyway, I'm leaving you here because time is up. Maybe next class I will finish this discussion. But in case you have any question, you can ask me right now. In case you have any question, you can ask me. No question? If you have any question, you can ask me. Just a minute. Let me save the file. After that, I will stop.
Sir, what was the term used for elasticity less than 1?
Pardon? What was the elasticity?
Sir,
if it is less
what
than
was
1, relatively
Yes.
inelastic.
or for greater than 1, relatively elastic.
Elastic, exactly.
Okay.
Relatively elastic means what? Relatively, just a minute. Here, relatively elastic means more than 1 means, suppose I change price, increase price of my product by more than by 1%. Suppose I increase price of my product by 1%, then price increase, demand decrease, demand will decrease, but decrease in demand will be more than 1%. It is relatively elastic. Price increase, demand decrease. That is by default it is happening, unless it is an inferior good. And if I give you any example of inferior good, then this negative sign may not be there even, because relationship between quantity demanded and price in case of inferior good is positive, remember. So these are common sense, you have to use it in your, you have to think about it. Okay. Let me stop recording. Any other question?